So as I'm setting this up, Shaun, get ready. I just want to tell you a little bit about Shaun Rawls. And I've known Shaun since I started with Keller Williams back in 2002. This guy has been a powerhouse from the very first time I met him. And I just want to share a couple things with you. And then Shaun and I are going to have a conversation in which we're going to share with you a conversation we were having maybe 6 months ago. 25 years working in real estate. The Rawls group of Keller Williams has over 2,000 agents, producing more than $4 billion in annual sales. The Rawls group won the award for Atlanta's best place to work among all companies, not just real estate companies, all companies in Georgia for an unprecedented 5 years in a row. Maybe this guy knows what he's doing. Maybe we should be asking him for advice. Maybe I should be reaching out to him and asking for advice. Well, I did. And we're going to share part of that conversation with you right now. So, Justin, if you would spotlight Shaun, I'm going to move to the middle of the room, get rid of all this crud on my desk, or table, whatever this is. You guys move my stars so I don't know if I'm in the right place. Welcome, Shaun. You're on mute. Favorite 2020 words, hashtag. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, buddy. How are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm better now.
Good.
So I'm going to put you on my computer so that you're not behind me, although you are, for everybody in the room. But I can see you. How cool is that?
Good. Those are some impressive numbers you guys are putting up there.
I'm surprised that you can keep up as fast as I did that, right?
Well, I'm a speed reader at times, so that was good. I was able to keep up.
Yeah. Well, Shaun, I'm a big fan. You know that.
Well, I'm probably a bigger fan of yours than you are of mine, so we'll just leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. So you and I were talking maybe about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I asked you your opinion on what was going on in the real estate industry. And if it's okay with you, Shaun, rather than laying up some easy questions for you, I want to get right to the heart of our conversation. Is that okay?
I'd love it.
Yeah. Is everybody in here okay with that?
Yes.
My camera's off.
We got a bunch of D's on the call, so they're going to like going right to it, I think.
I hope so, because we're going to get real, right?
That's the plan. That's what you told me to take the gloves off, so I'm ready.
Okay. So I've never seen a real estate industry like this, and that's how I started the conversation with you when I reached out to you about 6 months ago asking you for advice. And I did that as we were preparing to introduce a new model to the market center here in Coral Springs. And as you know, we've introduced that market a couple weeks ago. We're the first to do it in South Florida. And one of the questions that I asked you 6 months ago in preparation to do this was, where do you see the real estate industry going? If we had a crystal ball, what does the future of real estate look like? What does our future look like as agents who are fighting, as Gary Keller would say, we're in a battle to remain the fiduciary in the real estate transaction. And with all of these companies who are fighting for market share, our agents are getting a few recruiting calls.
Well, that's everywhere. That's not isolated in Coral Springs. That's everywhere.
Yeah. So where do you see this going? And what does this look like long term? And if I was a real estate agent that was considering what Keller Williams or another company, why should I choose Keller Williams? And why should I stay here?
All great questions. You know, it's an interesting time, right? I mean, it's, you know, the COVID market for our industry was turned out to be better than anybody feared it would be, you know, a year ago this time, right? And, you know, while it's a great market for sellers, particularly, it's frustrating for buyers agents. And while, you know, depending on what side you're on and what the market's like, there's, you know, it's a brisk market and things are moving quickly. And when agents are making a lot of money and things are happening fast, everybody's happy, and then people get cocky, and then other companies think, well, you know, if you're going to make all that money, why are you spending all that money where you are? And let's come talk about saving $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever the number is. And people, real estate agents in general, we are behaviorally distracted easily, right? And we love attention and we love all kinds of stuff, but the market's not going to stay like this, and it's going to shift. And one of the things that I've seen in my 30 years is people's value propositions tend to sway based on the strength or the lack of strength of a market. You know, we saw discount brokers come in, you know, years ago, and they came in, you know, really heavily when the shift happened, and it was just everybody was worried and they weren't making as much money, and they felt like saving money was the right thing to do. And so we lost a good bit of agents during that time, as a lot of companies did, to that kind of idea of a virtual agent or discount brokerage or whatever that was, only to find that when the market turned back, saving money really wasn't all that great, because if saving money is one thing, making is another. And I've watched our company stay dead focused on nothing but making our agents' lives better. And the leader of that charge is a guy named Gary Keller, as we all know. And when I joined this company in 1999, I opened the first Keller Williams office in Georgia. And there were 5,000 Keller Williams agents on the planet when I joined this company. So just a few less than what we have now, right? Just a few less. So, and back then, Gary was beating his drum about the changes of the real estate market. The changes of the real estate market, it's going to change. People are after us. People are after us. And by after us, they don't mean Keller Williams. People are after the realtor. People are after the realtor's money. People want to capitalize and take the real estate agent more out of the transaction so that they can create a disturbance in the marketplace with buyers and sellers and capture some of the income that real estate companies get and real estate agents get, so that they can capture those for themselves and their companies for a while to sell out or to go public or whatever that looks like. You ask where this is going. I think that depends a lot on the collective of real estate agents. Because if I'm Gary Keller, I'm probably pretty pissed off, because I've been beating my drum over and over and over for 30 something years about, I am going to protect you. I am going to make sure the real estate agent stays in the middle of the center of the transaction. I'm going to make sure the agents have as much opportunity to make as much income as they possibly can. We're going to do that in a model that, that is the most value focused model on the planet, not the cheapest, but the most value. We're going to give people the most for the money. We're going to create a culture. We're going to tie them into the profits. And whether in the profit share system is interesting, because whether you partake in profit share or not, you still benefit, because it creates this culture of sharing and collaborating in an industry that's never heard of that. So everybody gets to cheat off each other's paper. So whether you get profit share or not, you're benefiting by being able to copy off the smartest student in class. And we just, and what's happened is, then we've lived with the Zillows, right? Zillows come in, and we're an industry. This is where I get frustrated, because we are an industry that, aside from prostitution itself, real estate has been one of the greatest forms of it professionally. You have had lots of brokers that have capitalized on the hard work of agents unnecessarily and unfairly in a lot of cases. You take the Zillows of the world. All they've done has been a sheep in wolf's clothing for years, and now they've become a real estate brokerage. And we are an industry. So let me back up before I go to that point.
No, Shaun, I remember, if I could butt in just for a second, because I think I'm going to remember a part of the conversation that I had a long time ago that I think is a perfect fit for what you're talking to me about. You were at a convention, or you were on a trip somewhere, and you were listening to the news, and you heard about this company that had just purchased
Coldwell Banker.
Coldwell Banker. So tell us about that.
Yeah, it was great. It was a defining moment for me as a leader. And I can't remember the year, but it was probably I'm sure we could look it up, but Coldwell Banker was bought by a company, started with an H, H something, but it was a hospitality company. And they made the news, and I was watching CNN, I was brushing my teeth. I remember it like it was yesterday, and I never will forget it. And they said, and they were interviewing, and I'm brushing my teeth, and I'm just kind of watching. And they said, you know, that's it. Why would a hospitality company want to buy a real estate company? And the guy said, oh, well, when we looked at the opportunities available to us out there, and we looked at the real estate market, the real estate industry has a lot of money that flows into it. And it's an industry where the labor is overpaid and the management is disorganized. And I spit out my toothpaste and I turned up the volume, and I thought, surely I did not hear that correctly. And I thought, who the F does this guy think the labor is? It's the realtors. It's the ones selling the houses. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. And I thought, this is going to be a great day. I'm going to go to work, and every Coldwell Banker agent on the planet in Atlanta is going to call me, and they're going to come to me today. Never happened. Never happened. Now, we made some offensive calls, and we kind of played that game a little bit, but I was shocked that more people weren't shocked at what was in that statement and what that statement revealed about our industry. So fast forward, we're in 2021. You say, where is this going to go? I would ask every individual agent, here's the question you have to ask yourself. For anybody listening to this or watching this, here's the question you have to ask yourself. Where do I want to be in 5 years and 10 years from now? What do I want to be doing in 5 to 10 years from now? What I want. And if your answer is, I want to be better at real estate, I want to be making more money in real estate than I am today, then you have a chance to prove that starting today and thereafter. If you don't want to be in the business, or you don't think you're going to be doing as much, then that's your prerogative. But we are a business that collectively has people that make a career out of it, and some people don't. And largely, we have a lot of people that don't sell as much real estate as they want to do because they really don't want to put forth the effort that they need to put forth, or they don't want to spend the money they need to spend to get the right coaching or get the right tools or whatever it is. And so they kind of play part-time agent and whatever. And what happens is you end up with agents who are very, very dependent on lead generation of other companies. And so this is where Zillow got their hooks into so many people, because there is a huge amount of people out there that just liked the lead generation, even though they're paying the high referral fees and whatever it is. They like, the third-party relocations. They like Zillows. They like whatever. As long as they don't have to roll up their sleeves and do real lead gen on their own, they'll pay for it and leverage it out. The problem with that is it weakens our system ultimately. And the people that are looking at this as a career, that want to be in it 5 years and 10 years from now and doing better than they are today, we have to be very, very careful, because here's my deal. There is one person that I've watched in 30 years who has been extremely outspoken about making sure that the number one focus of his company was to protect the livelihood of a real estate agent in whatever town, USA. One, and his name's Gary Keller. And there have been other companies that come in, and I'm going to tell you, any new companies that come in that are newer companies, they're fattening the hog for slaughter. And what they want to do is they want to beef up their roster. They want to get enough revenue so that they can be bought out, and the people at the top can make millions of dollars and go home. They don't care about the real estate agent. They don't care about your career in 5 or 10 years. They know that most real estate agents care about whether they're saving $50 or $100 a month right now. And that's good enough for now, because if they get enough people, they attract enough attention, and people think a lot of people are going and all that stuff, and people come and people go and people come and people go. But there is one company that I've seen and witnessed and been a part of that no real estate agent will ever outgrow. You can save money somewhere. People can copy parts of our model. They will never copy the entire thing. They will never create a culture that we have. They will never have a plan that generates passive income like ours, and hence creates an opportunity for you to copy off the best in the business's paper. They will never create the collective splits. And more importantly, they will never develop leaders like our company does. Our company develops more leaders. And that, in my opinion, when I look back on the longevity of this company, it's because there are people like me and John Dietz and Alan Waxman and Richard Bass and Jerry Moran who grew up and were taught how to be better leaders and became better leaders. And everybody on this call, everybody in this company has the opportunity to sit and listen and watch and learn and practice and better your career, better your value proposition, and better your future because you're here. And I think if you want to stay in this business, you better bet on red, because everybody else in this business is out for the people at the top. And there is one person that over and over and over, consistent to ad nauseum, is Gary Keller, who has said, our agents are our most important asset. We're going to treat them like that. We're going to make sure that we protect them. We're going to spend as much money as we need to spend. We're going to spend as much time as we need to spend. We're going to spend as much energy as we need to spend to make sure that the opportunities they have in the future are as great or greater than they are today. Gary Keller is the guy. And I'll tell you, everybody that falls in line with that, the regional people, Nikki Ubaldini, Mark Olesh, Alan Waxman, Shaun Rawls, John Dietz, Jerry, down the line, we have a train of people that have bought into that and spent an entire career assisting that vision and making sure, and you can put it up to the test, you can put it under the microscope. Nobody's perfect. We're not perfect, but we are consistent. We are consistent, and people can come and people can go. But I'm telling you, if you value the career of not just your career, and this is what's hard because real estate agents think about themselves first. It's like on the plane, it's like put the mask on yourself and then save everybody else. And that mentality resonates with a lot of people. But at the end of the day, right now, our fight as realtors is to protect our place in the transaction. Is to protect ourselves from the people who are trying to eliminate it and minimize our position in the transaction for their own financial gain. And every subscription we buy into, every lead generation model that we leverage out to that's not true to that, every company that we give credibility to that is out to make a quick buck and lower expenses so that they can gain and sell and do whatever they need to do, they're a threat to the industry, not just you as an agent. They're a threat to our entire industry. And we need an army of real estate agents that start thinking like Gary Keller's been telling us to think for 30 years. We need an army of people that need to say, how do we protect our industry? If I wanted my child to get into this in 5 years, what can I do to make sure that my kid can take my business over and do even better with it than I did? Well, first of all, we have to protect our position in the transaction. We have to be a part of that solution. We have to say no to some things. We have to say no to some companies. We have to say no to some lead generation opportunities. And we have to get better ourselves at our business. And we have to rely on ourselves, and we have to trust the company that we're a part of or the company that you join. But I'm telling you, look at the leaders of companies out there. Most, and particularly if it's a new company, they're not realtors. They're not realtors. They're technology people. They're technology people. They don't know. They don't empathize. They've watched panels. They understand. But I'll tell you what they understand more than anything. They understand the money that can be made off the backs of real estate agents. And that is what most companies are setting up to do, because right now you've got a lot of things that have happened. Compass came on the scene, made a big splash with technology, had a lot of people let down. There's some issues with that, but their biggest issue is they have a centralized leadership, in my opinion, not a localized leadership. And they've missed the whole leadership chip in terms of, if you're an agent and you want somebody and you need somebody, who do you go to? I don't know that I want to talk to a guy in New Jersey about my problem in Atlanta. But and they will improve that. Everybody will improve that. But just understand, there's a lot of people playing the get my numbers up, get it up fat enough where I can sell it, I can kill it, and I can make a bunch of money, and I can go home and go on to the next thing. They're not lifelong realtors. They're business people, and they're business people that have grown up in an opportunistic financial realm where you set things up for profit. You set things up for sale. You set things up for merger. You set things up for going public. You create an opportunity to make 10, 20, 100 times your money investment and your revenue because of that. And we're an interesting business. And what's interesting is from a real estate agent, we have a huge, we have an unlimited income opportunity, and we don't have to buy inventory to stick in our garage to sell. We just go borrow inventory. We go knock on doors and lead generate and we find inventory for us to sell and buy for our people, but we don't have to buy any inventory. We don't have to take any office lease rent. We don't even have to have a college degree. We can actually get in this business with a GED without having a high school graduation. It's unfathomable the success that people can have with a limited amount of education and a limited amount of income invested in their business. Except what you invest in yourself. You spend your money on making yourself better. You spend your money on making yourself smarter. You don't have to buy a house to sell it. We just borrow it and we sell it. And we make a difference, and we help people, and we transition people. We take away headaches, and we take the bumps out of the road. And what we do is an amazing service for the United States and the whole world. But I'm telling you, our industry is at risk, and it's at risk from outside, and it's at risk from weak agents on the inside. And I'm talking about, when we were brokers, we would have people would make fun of our model once upon a time, right? The brokers that I respected most would make fun of our model. And I said, hey, buddy, I'll put my bottom 20% up against your bottom 20% any day. Because guess what? They all sell one house or two houses a year. The bottom rosters of every real estate company on the planet are on life support. Or they're just doing it to do something whenever the wind blows and whatever. Now let's compare the top. Let's compare the people that you're putting up on the screen in this meeting. Let's talk about the business owners, and let's talk about the business opportunities, because here's the deal. That is the benchmark that you have. How many people are killing it in your board? I mean, your office is obviously crushing it. You're what, 45, 40, 54% better than the average production for March in the board? That's humongous. And guess what? That's a culmination of great leadership. It's a culmination of great education. It's a culmination of great culture. I guarantee you most of the people on that list cheated off some really smart people's paper. I bet they sat at Mega Camp and thought, holy cow, I'm going to contact that lady. She's awesome. And guess what she did? She shared everything she knows with you. Or you sat in a mastermind with Gary Keller and they said, tell us how you're doing it in Austin. Tell us how you're doing it in Las Vegas. Tell us how you're doing it in Atlanta. And you're taking notes, and then you're going back and you're raising the hood of your car and you're tweaking your engine and you're making it better. And lo and behold, you had your best year ever because you cheated off somebody else's paper who allowed you to.
Shaun, when you say cheat off somebody else's paper, here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing because we're in a company that has an abundance mentality, and that's part of our culture. We have agents that are willing to allow other agents to model their success. Not only are they willing, but they openly want to reach out to those agents in order to support them and help them become more successful.
But keep in mind, Gary wasn't stupid. He created a financial model that said, if you follow this model and you buy into it, you're going to want everyone around you to succeed at the highest level they can. Versus that doesn't exist in our business. And I'd like to think that everybody's just super nice and wants to help everybody. And once you do, you probably get it in your system. But if you are one of the people that participates in profit share, and the more profitable my office is, the bigger my percentage of passive income can be, I want everybody to make that number as big as possible. So what do you want to know? How can I help you? Here's what I do. What can I do better? What can you do better? Here's my paper. Look off my paper. Take anything you want. So it's interesting.
A little bit. Let's talk E2P for a moment. So
yeah.
And if I'm an agent, and I'm going to talk to you as if I'm an agent in the room, I'm an agent on Zoom, or I'm one of the many agents who are going to watch this video, and I've been hitting that ceiling. In other words, I succeeded to a certain level by doing what comes natural. And I'm hitting that ceiling over and over again, and that creates pain, it creates frustration, it creates resignation, and I start looking for greener pastures. In other words, I'm going to go, if I can't break through that ceiling, I'm going to go somewhere else because maybe the answer is over there. So that's one solution. And I heard you say a few minutes ago, invest in yourself. What's another way that we can break through that ceiling? If you were talking to an agent in a one-on-one interview who is struggling at breaking through that ceiling, what advice would you give them?
First of all, I think you have to be willing to realize and accept the fact that whatever your problems are, you are your problem, right? So, and look, again, most of the people in this industry are high I people, right? They're D's and I's, but high I is the more I we have, the more ego we have. You know, and they're the people at the holiday party with the blinking Santa tie and the reindeer ears and, you know, all that stuff, right? We've all seen that. Now, however, it's when that ego gets involved, the ego doesn't really want, and this is, I've been doing a lot of study on the brain and ego with the book I wrote and other stuff, but the ego is not who we are. Our ego is a part of us, but our ego is kind of a destructive force. And the ego does not want to be wrong. So the best way to not be wrong is, frankly, just blame somebody else. You know, if you don't want to take responsibility of the fact that your numbers aren't what they want or what you want them to be, blame it on your broker, blame it on your car, blame it on your spouse, blame it on your company, blame it on your splits, blame it on your cap, blame it on the weather, blame it on your city, the schools, the zip code. I don't really care, but people will look and look and look and look and look and look and look for a scapegoat, but they don't always look in the mirror. So the first thing I would say is you just got to get real, and it's not really hard. I mean, if you can sit your ego down and go, don't be attached to right or wrong, be attached to the person you're becoming and who you want to be. I think one of the things I've loved about this company, John, more than any, is we are the company that made failure cool. We've talked about failure forever. I mean, forever. I mean, if you watch the top level interviews that happen with Gary or whatever on stage, they do talk about their successes, but rarely ever does somebody get off stage without being asked about what they screwed up and how they fixed it. Because we've all made mistakes, and usually our mistakes are, we're very talented. Most of the people that are in this business are very personable, are really good people, are attractive and smart and lovely to have a conversation with and care about other people, and they're servant-oriented leaders. And they succeed on their own in a very entrepreneurial way. So what happens in life is we kind of learn to, as adults, we really learn how to embrace our strengths and hide our weaknesses. And we get so good at hiding our weaknesses to people around us and our clients and the relationships we're in, or our children, whatever, that we start to believe it ourselves over time. And what we have to do is kind of take the lid off that a little bit and say, okay, let's assume that I'm really good at some things, and let's do something harder. Let's assume I really suck at some others. And it's okay to suck at some things, but let's assume that there are some things I suck at that should not be allowed and that I don't have to tolerate about myself. So what would be the most important things that I'm not naturally good at, that if I really put some effort into and became a little unnaturally good at, could really turn the knob on my performance as a professional? And if I could just pick one of those, and without overwhelming myself when thinking I'm terrible or I'm awful or putting myself in a funk, that's not the purpose. The purpose is to say, let's just assume that we can do all the things we do well easily. And let's assume if we were committed to a better future, a better 5 years, a better 10 years, a better next year, a better next month, that if we just turned our focus on something that was really important for my business that I just have always said I'm not that good at yet, and I focused on it, how much could I move the needle if I just committed to the effort to spend time there uncomfortably without pressure of performance. Because that's where we get in trouble, because we go, and I watch this with my kids, and on some level, we never really grow up in this way. We want to, we get so good at, and our expectations are, if I put forth an effort and I don't get the return I want, then I'm failing, and I don't want to do that. Take that off. If you're embracing something you believe you're not that great at, then embrace it without any expectation of performance. Just embrace it for a period of time. Embrace it for a month or 2 months or a quarter, and then just see what happens, and see if you don't get a little more comfortable. See if you don't get a little bit better. See if you don't realize that you were scared of the boogeyman and it didn't really exist. And what if you just tried a little harder? What if you didn't fear rejection? What if you actually went after it? There's a story I've told a lot in my years, and it was when I was in college. I went out to a bar. I went to college at Georgia Tech, which is in downtown Atlanta, and Buckhead's kind of our entertainment district. And so I went out with a guy named Neil, and I just actually saw Neil in Wilmington, North Carolina. He's made a fortune in his life. But he and I went out one night at Georgia Tech, but we were going into a bar, and before we walked in, he said, okay, we'd never been out before, by the way. And he said, okay, we are going to go out. And, but here's the rule. We're going to play by Neil's rules tonight. Neil's rules are, we can't leave this bar and go to another one until we've been turned down by 3 women apiece. So I looked at him and I thought, dude, isn't that like the opposite of the goal? And he said, yeah. But he said, trust me, it's a lot more fun this way. It's like, all right. So we get in the bar, and lo and behold, we don't really want to stay there. And I was like, you want to go? He's like, 3 apiece. So I look around, and we just start. I was like, all right, I'm going to go get my 3 now. I'll be right back. And so I go and I start. And here's what I figured out that night. Short of being a complete jackass, I could talk to people, and people would talk to me. And all of a sudden, I realized what happened that night is the thing that typically happens in that scenario is no is not the goal. It is, in fact, it is so anti the goal that it puts us in a corner, and we never really talk to anybody because we're too scared of the rejection that's going to occur if we try. And what I learned that night was, go for no. Go for no. Embrace rejection. Make rejection the goal, because in the no's are the yeses. You're never going to get yeses if you fear the no's. And so for lead generation for people, just that little tweak, that was a life-changing event for me, because I realized, oh my God, I've been so scared of no, and I should have been going for no. What was wrong with me? And I've carried that into my real estate business. I've taught it all over the country. I told Neil when I saw him a month ago, I was like, dude, you're famous in Keller Williams. I've told your story. Nobody knows who you are, but I have told your story 1,000 times, because it has changed the lives of real estate agents all over this country with their mindset of rejection.
I'm sure everybody in the room wants to know, how long did it take to get 3 no's?
I don't remember. I just remember that my mindset changed.
So one of the things that I'm hearing, being serious, is question for you, Shaun. When you're less attached to yes, do you hear yes more often?
Absolutely. I mean, look, we get so attached to an outcome. We don't get attached to, can I get better at this? We drive up to a house and we think, God, I hope I get this listing, before you've even met the jerk that lives inside. Right? And so instead of going up going, God, I really hope I want this listing after I meet with these people. This is a nice house. This would be great. Let's hope the people are worthy of it. But we don't think that way. We get so attached. And what happens is, when we really want that listing, guess what happens? We don't really recognize the jerk. And we don't really ask the questions that might expose it, because we really don't want to know that they're a jerk. We just want the friggin' listing. And then guess what? When he says, hey, will you do this, for free? And you go, pretty much, I want your listing, right? Because I've already determined I wanted it. But if I just said, let me see if I want it. Let me go see how good of a listing presentation I can get. Let me see how good I can be at at protecting my ground. Let me see how good I can be at delivering a value proposition. Let me see how good I can be at connecting with this person who lives in a different zip code or whatever it is. We predetermine what we want to the degree that it hurts us and it makes us less professional and less effective and less profitable than we should be.
Okay, Shaun, so before I give you a few minutes for closing thoughts, I want to share gratitude. I want to share gratitude to you and Jerry for being a part of the leadership group that launched Keller Williams Coral Springs. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, and I recognize that. I wouldn't have the opportunity to be a team leader here if it wasn't for you, and I am grateful for that.
Do you remember your path to team leader?
You were my first call.
You were I was your first call. And when you called me, I was like, holy cow, John Dietz wants to be a team leader. And I was like, I got to find a spot. And I looked in Atlanta, I looked all over the place. And then there was this crazy guy named Alan Waxman that I thought, dude, there's a guy you need to contact like tomorrow. And it's like really one of my most satisfying connections in life, because to watch your growth over these years and what you've done for this company, and more importantly, every individual agent that you've touched in your role and made better because you're there. Whew, that's humbling. That's gratitude for me to you, buddy. Don't be giving me the gratitude. I owe you.
That means a lot. I appreciate that, Shaun. And yes, I will remember that day forever. Absolutely, I remember that phone call. You were my very first call. The next call was John Davis, by the way, and then the next call after that was Alan Waxman. So thank you for making this possible. Okay, parting thoughts to the future #1 Keller Williams office in the state of Florida and all of Keller Williams Realty International. What would you like to say to this group?
Couple of things. I don't know if people invest in stocks, but one of the things I like to do is play around with little risky stocks. And I'm talking like a few $1,000s. I mean, it's better than going to Vegas for me, because I can watch it and it's a slow burn and it's whatever. But there's a mantra. Because a lot of people that play, there's a lot of people that play in these little bitty stocks, these little bitty stock things. But all they're doing is gambling, right? There's a difference between gambling and investing. And I listen to these people talk, and I read these chat boards, because I really am fascinated by the little guy becoming big, and I like to find those stories. And sometimes you invest in a company and you put money in it, and it just and the bottom drops out, and there's all this manipulation that happens in those little stock markets that you can't control. And you can hear these investors who are gambling just getting nervous. And there's a phrase that always shows up by seasoned investors that says, dude, know what you own. If you know what you own, you will not worry when these things swing. If you invested in a company because you believed in the company or the leadership or the value proposition or the technology that takes time to develop, if you believe in it, stop worrying every time the wind blows. Know what you own. And if I had a parting thought, I would tell people in this business, know what you own in this business. You own a huge chunk of the real estate on the planet, and you control it. And the ability to control it for the next 5 or 10 years has everything to do with your mentality. And I think you have to think bigger as a real estate agent. I think you have to think about you and your legacy and your children being able to do this, or your best friend's children being able to do this. Whatever that looks like, you have to think bigger, and you have to zoom out and look at what you're playing, because I guarantee you're thinking too small. And if you're making quick knee-jerk reactions, if some stupid little company gets your attention because they offer $5 off a month than what your bill is, then you've got a problem, and you don't know what you own. You don't know what you're a part of. You don't know what the leadership is and what they're committed to and how they're committed to your future and your career. They're not worried about saving you $50 a month. They're worried about helping you make $500,000 more a year. That's what we want to do. And I'll take make more money over save more money all damn day. But the problem is you have to buy into it, and you have to believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, get into coaching. Sit down in front of John and cry your eyes out and let him kick you in the butt and tell you how good you are and how good you can be and what you need to do. And let him help you figure out what you're unnaturally not good at and help you focus on a couple of little tweaks in your business and watch what happens to your income. Watch what happens to the quality of your life. You are in relationship with some of the best people on the planet in this industry who want nothing more than to protect what you do for a living for you and everybody else who has a license in it. And that's why we want people to come here. That's why we want people to stay here. We want to protect our profession. And we believe that the best way to protect our profession is for people to sell real estate in this company, in our model, with our education, our leadership, our principles, and our passion for your success. Know what you own.
That was awesome. That was awesome. Guys.
Sorry, I get a little carried away and I'm a little passionate at times. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
What do you think?
That's why I'm here.
Was that amazing? Yes. Are you guys in business with some pretty incredible people? I mean, raise your hand if you didn't know that Shaun Rawls is one of the owners of the Market Center that you're a part of. Raise your hand if you didn't know this guy was part of this company, right? So that's a huge aha for me. I should have let you know that sooner. I should have put him in front of you sooner. I should have put him in front of you more often. And the promise that I made to Shaun Rawls when we were talking is I've got Tom Brady on the sideline and I'm not putting him in the game. Shame on me.
Hey, listen, John, I just wrote a book. I just wrote a book, right?
Yes.
So it publishes May 4th. I'm going to come down there and I'm going to do an effortless presentation for your office and I'm going to sign whoever's book has it. So we're going to make that happen in the next couple of months. So let's look at some dates for that and I'll come down and I'd love to meet you and all of your crazy crew in person and not on Zoom. I am fully vaccinated and ready to roll.
So one of the things that I learned when I was a brand new team leader was to always end the meeting and type bow, right? So cue the music. I can't think of a better bow than that. Shaun Rawls is going to come visit you. That's amazing. That's a huge deal. Guys, you're in business with some incredible people. Think bigger, think bigger, think bigger, think bigger. If you're thinking big, then you see incredible opportunity everywhere in front of you. If you're not thinking big, you're seeing, well, my anniversary date is this, and I don't get to do this. Think bigger. Make it a great day.